Winter can feel long and dark, but it doesn't have to. As a Dane, I'll show you 8 Hygge-inspired ways with vintage pieces to make your home warm, cozy and joyful all season. Hey, I'm Jessie. I help vintage lovers create cozy, character-filled homes through thrifting, styling and sustainable living. As a Dane, Hygge really is a way of making the conditions or setting the frame for feeling cozy and relaxed. So yes, of course that can involve having a hot chocolate with whipped cream in winter time. I mean, who doesn't love hot chocolate? It could be having a tea or wrapping yourself in a cozy blanket. There are many more ways that you can create Hygge the Danish way. So this takes me to the first point, which is creating a Hygge night with friends. And this is one of my favorite ways of creating Hygge in Denmark. On a Friday or Saturday night, I love inviting friends over for a meal that is home cooked and possibly a board game of some sort. And creating the conditions mean from the moment that your guests step in the door, they will feel welcome and at home, so that when they leave, they are more recharged than when they arrived. So when they step in, can you make it smell of delicious food that they get hungry and ready to indulge? Have you set the table, in my case, with maybe mismatching vintage plates? It makes it feel super homely and unique. I love decorating the middle of the table with all sorts of wonderful items. So it could be a wooden tray with candles on it, maybe I have some dried flowers, or maybe I pick something from the garden that are very seasonal. I love some pumpkins at this time of the year, popping that in. If you're doing it at summertime, maybe you have a vase and you'll pop some flowers in it and make it feel fresh and airy. So they're a little bit dependent on the season. But the point is that you are creating the conditions for making your guests feel welcome, and they will be recharged when they leave your home, and you've probably created some fantastic new memories together. The second way of creating Hygge is having a Hygge night with kids. Now, I do not have kids other than this furry little friend Bobby, but this is something that was really important to me as I grew up. So Hygge night was sacred, and my mom would put on Disney show on the telly every Friday night, and we would each be given the equivalent of $1, something like that, to go and pick and mix, so choose pick and mix. And once Disney show would go on, usually around 7 o'clock after dinner, my mom would have laid out hand-knitted blankets, and we would have a bowl with the pick and mix. And typically this would be something with a lot of memories in it, so something that in our case that we got from my grandmother, and there's just so many stories and memories in that. So I think anyone out there can really create a great Hygge night with their kids. I can really recommend that you take the blankets, don't sit on the couch, but throw them on the floor and just lie around in it and have a great time. Okay, off you go, Bobby. There you go. The third way of creating Hygge are with elements of light. So of course that can mean candles, it can be tea lights, and definitely put it in your favorite thrifted candlesticks and candle holders. But it can also mean accent lights around the room. So dim the light, make it feel cozy, have a nice vintage lamp in the corner that are giving you that right yellowish warm glow that make you feel relaxed. If you're lucky enough to have a wood burner, it can also be the light coming from the fireplace, and just sitting around that and just staring into the flames is a fantastic way of creating Hygge. The fourth way is layered texture. So think wool, sheepskin, linen, a vintage armchair, a hand-me-down rug, or an old quilt draped over the sofa. When layers don't match perfectly, it actually makes things feel more lived in, and that creates Hygge. If you want to know more about how you can create great color schemes from your fabrics in your home, you can watch the video that I've linked in the comments. This takes us to tip number 5, which is seasonal hygge. For me, hygge can also be seasonal. I always bring out my vintage Christmas star during Christmas time, and this is a star I've had for years. It is a Georg Jensen star, which I just think is absolutely beautiful, and it brings out memories of being together. Having decorations that remind you of past memories and good times with friends and family makes your home feel more rooted and personal. I'd love to know in the comments what item that brings out the seasonal hygge in your home. In tip number 6, we'll be looking at the reading corner. Find a cozy nook and make it yours. This could be a mid-century reading lamp. You could have a stack of well-loved second-hand books or magazines, maybe even a vintage armchair that you thrifted. And this corner should invite you to slow down, breathe, and just want to stay there for a while. And speaking of style, vintage can be so many things, but it can actually be quite hard to figure what is the core of my vintage style. So I've done a fun little quiz that you can take to determine that. You can use it as a springboard to start building your very curated vintage collection from. So I have left a link to this quiz in the comments below. Tip number 7 is food and smells, and we touched a little bit on this before, but really food is central to hygge. Use vintage kitchenware, an old enamel pot, a ceramic casserole dish, or maybe plates that you've collected at markets, because serving food in this way can make the experience feel really intimate, and it brings people together. One of the things I miss from living in the UK for so many years is going home for dinner rather than going to the pub. And trust me, I do love the pub, but I also love the hygge that it creates when you are together at home meeting for a meal. It's been said many times before that cooking is a way of showing love. So I would love to know, if you were cooking me or maybe your best friends a meal, what would you invite us over for? And here's a fun little fact for you. In Denmark, smell actually has 2 words. We have duft for something that is very nice and fragrant and it's a pleasant smell, and we have looked, which is more like someone just went to the toilet and it's not that nice. So make sure that you're leaning in on the pleasant one. Bobby, du lugter. Which means, Bobby, you are smelling. All right, let's look at the last point, which is music and creating ambient sounds that really embraces the concept of hygge. The best way of explaining it for me is you might have the fireplace on, and you know when it does the and it kind of explodes the fire. I don't know what you call that in English, but that sound is associated with the kind of calming down and chilling and just like having that cozy hygge feeling. Other ways could be putting on your favorite music. In many cases, this will be make you comfortable and kind of relaxing and calming down. But actually, if you are with friends and family and maybe you're ready to going out for a night in town, sometimes it's just putting on music that makes you want to sing along and just have a laugh, and it just makes you feel really, really good. So what music can you introduce into the room to create a hygge feeling? And also, if you are into records, are there something about the physical act of taking it out the sleeve and putting it on an old record player? Some people find that to be really hygge as well, but it's all up to you and your individual preferences. Now that you hopefully entered your most hygge mood, go ahead and watch this video where I take you thrifting around London in some of my favorite places, and this is typically where I will find items to create these unique hygge moments. Go grab a tea and I will see you there.